Hi, everybody. Laura here for Legal Talk Tuesday. And today I'm going to talk a little bit more practically about the divorce process. It's a lawsuit. I mean, there's no way around it. So getting divorced is a technical lawsuit in the court system in Arkansas. And a couple things you need to know about that. First, you file for divorce. It's called a complaint for divorce. If you have children, you may need some other documents besides just the complaint for divorce and the initial cover sheet, which if you work with us, I prepare those for you, but you might also need something called a confidential information sheet that keeps your children's names out of the official court paperwork so that they can't be, discovered, I guess, if somebody's looking around and trying to find their names. That's important. But another thing is you have to have service on your spouse. And service is a very technical rule, and it means that you've given official notification to your spouse that you filed for divorce. So even in situations where you guys are both agreeing on things and you hope to have a settlement outside of court on an uncontested divorce, that service requirement is still there. What we like to do at MVL is we like to offer and draft a waiver of service and entry of appearance for your spouse to sign off on. That does not waive their rights to hire their own attorney later if they want to, or to not receive notices about, when hearing dates are set or that kind of thing. It can say that, and some attorneys will say that that's the only way to do a waiver of service, but that's not the case. The way that we draft our waiver of services is that it's literally just waiving that required service rule for getting the documents. You can't just hand the documents to your spouse and be done with it. It's that official waiver of service that I've received these documents, and the spouse can sign off on it with a notary and submit that to the court, and that's all good. That's an important step. You can't skip that step. In Arkansas, you still have that 30-day waiting period where you cannot go further in your case for a full 30 days after you filed that complaint for divorce. So it's a good idea to go ahead and get that process started, just because you do have that required 30-day waiting period. Now, depending on the county where you live, if this is truly an uncontested divorce where both of you are going to sign off on the decree and whatever settlement agreement or parenting plan that you might have, then again, it depends on where you live in the state, but some judges allow you to submit paperwork to get divorced, and you don't ever actually have to go in front of the judge. A lot of that is in the bigger counties. It's divorce by affidavit or by deposition, sometimes it's called, but it's basically the papers that say the required things like I'm a resident of the state of Arkansas and the county where I've filed for at least 60 days. You also have to have a residency witness, and that is also in counties that allow it, with judges that allow it. You have paperwork for that residency witness to also sign off on with a notary, and they never have to go with you to court, which is really nice. Now, some judges are still requiring in-person hearings. They did even during COVID times, and we're still kind of in COVID times, but in my opinion, but you may have to go to a hearing, an in-person hearing with that judge. Some judges, it's easier to get on their docket, and by docket, I mean their schedule. Some judges are out pretty far, months in advance, to where it might be, when you ask for that hearing, it might be 2 or 3 months before you can actually get in front of the judge for your hearing. That hearing is usually, 5-7 minutes of just those required things. If both of you have signed off on the decree, the parenting plan, the settlement agreement, whatever it might be, then the hearing is largely just technical, and it's about those requirements that you live in the state of Arkansas and you have for at least 60 days lived in the county where you filed, but also your grounds for divorce, because we are still a state that requires grounds for divorce, grounds like general indignities, adultery, habitual drunkenness, or felony conviction after the fact, after you got married, or fraud, those kinds of things are your grounds for divorce. Sometimes the judges will ask you questions about your grounds for divorce, even if the spouse signs off on things. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. But I really wanted to just take a minute to say, here's what the process is, basically. If you do have to go to that in-person hearing, like I said, it's pretty short, and it's usually just about the technicalities of, I live here in the state, my grounds for divorce are legitimate, and my residency witness is here to confirm that I live in whatever county, Cleveland County or wherever, and that you're allowed, basically you as the judge are allowed to sign off on my divorce. Once that happens, the judge is then going to sign those papers to make you officially divorced. And you'll have something called a disposition sheet that you have to also submit to the court. And that's something that they just keep for their internal records, basically, on, you know, what the case was, and was there child support involved, and were there attorneys involved, and things of that nature. So it is a lawsuit. You do have to file for divorce. There needs to be service or a waiver of service of those initial complaint documents of you filing for divorce. You have that 30-day waiting period if your spouse signs that waiver. Basically, you have that 30-day waiting period where you can't do anything basically during the 30-day waiting period. So sometimes that's a good time for you guys to finalize things with your settlement or parenting plan for custody and child support and things of that nature. And then once that 30-day waiting period has expired, then depending on your judge, you'll be able to submit paperwork or have that short hearing in person where it's very technical and it's just about your residency and your grounds for divorce, basically, and then you're divorced. So just a couple minutes. I'll put a link here to my consultation calendar in below here in the video, and I appreciate your time. And Brooke will be here next week. I'm recording this a little bit early just because I am in Northwest Arkansas today because my nephew is graduating from high school. Very excited about that. And so I appreciate you listening to my recorded voice and looking at my recorded face. Sorry, I had a little gnat that decided to show up in my face right now. But Brooke will be here next week for Lawyering Outside the Line, for Legal Talk Tuesday, talking to our business law people in Arkansas. She'll be here at 11:30, and we hope that you have a great rest of your week. And Brooke will be here next week to say hi. Thanks so much. Bye.